What is up everyone, it's Saber here and welcome to another Naruto What If. If you end up liking the video, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can take it back at any time and it really helps me out, and this is my second channel, so if you want some more what ifs, go check out my other channels. And with all of the YouTube formalities out of the way, let's get into it. Boruto ran after Naruto, feeling more and more annoyed. Honestly, he was starting to consider his father a hypocrite with all the times Boruto was lectured because he wasn't calm and in control of his emotions in battle, only to find out young Naruto was like that as well. Where do you think you're going? Naruto shouted as he jumped over the tree branches in pursuit of the Akatsuki member. Keep and calm and control your emotions, my ass. Boruto gritted his teeth as he followed closely to Naruto, glaring at the teen's back. Suddenly Deidara turned around and hurled 3 clay birds at Naruto, them exploding on impact and making Naruto fall off the tree trunk. Naruto, Kakashi called out to his student in concern. Boruto threw a shuriken at one of the 2 birds still intact, making it explode. The smoke disappeared quickly, revealing Naruto was still alright, climbing up another tree trunk that was wedged between the stone walls of the stream. Just as Naruto stood up, another bird zoomed by him directly in Kakashi's direction. The silver-haired Jonin evaded it before it blew up, but it was clear it was annoying him. Boruto followed behind them steadily, noticing that Deidara seemed to be focusing on attacking Kakashi. Only he must be trying to separate us from Naruto so he'd be able to take him. He realized, alright, that does it. Naruto jumped after Deidara, once again completely enveloped in his rage. Naruto, wait, Kakashi almost pleaded. Boruto had it. Naruto was being impulsive and manipulated by his emotions. He was going to get himself killed with the way things were going. You know what you have to do, right? A voice whispered in Boruto's mind. Just use the seal. Boruto gritted his teeth. He didn't want to think about it, but if things got any worse he might have to consider using it. Sakura stared at the slowly evaporating poison cloud in numbing shock. As Sarada, she whispered. Why did she? Sarada Chio made a pulling move with her wrist, but Sasori was faster. I don't think so, he said, and made a move with his fingers, sending black rope from his puppet to grab Sarada from inside the poison cloud. Sakura stared, her heartbeat so loud in her ears it was almost unbearable. Why did Sarada push her away? Why wasn't she moving away from the poison or doing something to escape? What's taking her so long? Her hands trembled, her breath hitched. It couldn't be that. Sarada, no, her mind told her she's stronger than that. Sarada is fine, but that still didn't make things any less difficult. The trembling in her hands still continued, but now with a slightly less panicked mind. Sakura noticed she wasn't trembling from fear, no, she was trembling with rage. Sasori made a pulling gesture and chuckled. Oh no, you don't, so you're determined not to let the child go, are you? Chio asked her grandson as she was fighting to pull Sarada away from the cloud. It's useless, Granny. If one breathes even a hint of this poison, then you're a goner. I promised Naruto that I wouldn't be a burden. I promised that this time was different. I swore that this time I would protect them. The tube that was spraying the poisonous gas started to run empty, meaning the cloud would disperse in a minute. It was now or never. Sasori smirked. I have more than one store of poison, you know. Another tube appeared and started to spray the gas again, and that's when Sakura acted. Shn an arrow with her fist clenched, she hit the ground with a chakra-enhanced punch, making it crack all the way up to Sasori. The shockwave was so strong it shook the walls of the cave and made the puppet rattle, turning the tubes of poison gas away from Sarada's body. That's when an explosion within the cloud of gas happened, rattling the cave. Sarada's body shot through the air, flying backwards. Sakura catched her in her arms, moving several meters back from the power of the explosion. Sarada was unconscious, laying limp in Sakura's arms. The sight of her unconscious body made Sakura even more pissed at the puppet master, who dared to hurt her. Oh, this is bad. Chio checked on Sarada. She's not breathing. It felt like Sakura's world stopped in place, like someone grabbed her heart and made it go still. She made Sarada sit up and patted her back with a bit of force, making the girl cough and regain consciousness. Are you alright, dear? Chio asked with concern as Sarada began to cough more violently. I'm fine. Sarada's arms shook as she fell on 4. She panted heavily, trying to catch her breath. Chio patted her back comfortingly, whilst Sakura stared at the girl with amazement. Sarada didn't even panic. During the whole thing she stayed calm and used an exploding tag to save herself. She was incredibly reckless, but also she reminded Sakura of Sasuke. Suddenly Sarada coughed up blood, making Sakura's eyes fly to her again. Are you okay? She asked the girl just as Sarada's arms gave out and she fell to the ground panting. Sarada, Sakura called in worry as she placed a hand on her forehead. She was burning up. Could it be that she inhaled a whiff of poison? Sarada's eyes were unfocused as she stared at Sakura. What are you? She coughed again, not being able to finish the sentence. Something in Sakura broke the moment Sarada called her that. Seething in anger, she turned to Sasori, fist clenched and trembling in rage and fury coming from somewhere deep inside of her. She was never aware she had the reminder of Sasuke had helped her remember why she was so adamant about defeating Sasori. He had information on Orochimaru, information she needed, and also she Was never going to let him get away with hurting Sarada like that. You listen to me, she glared at the Akatsuki member. I will get you, do you hear me? She took another step towards him, killing intent coiling around her like a snake ready to attack at any moment. You can blow my limbs off, you can poison me until I can move anymore, she yelled at him. But for hurting my friend I'm going to get you and I will make you pay. Her body trembled as she remembered her lost teammate in the clutches of the snake. No matter what you pull, no matter what you throw at me, I'm going to make sure you tell me everything about Orochimaru. Is that clear? For his answer, Sasori simply flicked his wrist, making his puppet send several kunai straight at Sakura faster than she can avoid. Himawari followed the three in their pursuit of Deidara while wondering when she should intervene. Right now she has the element of surprise on her side, but it'll only last once, so she has to make it count. Her friend used to laugh and say that people should take care not to fall victim to Himawari's innocent appearance as the daughter of the most unpredictable shinobi the world has known. It's time. Himawari used that to her advantage, but how? In front of Boruto, two clay bombs went off the moment Kakashi moved to the next tree trunk. He tensed, trying to sense the Jonin's chakra signature. Not for the first time he cursed at not having the ability to sense others well like his sister. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto yelled from further ahead. Luckily Kakashi emerged unharmed from the smoke. Boruto sped up and reached his sensei, jumping next to him. He's trying to separate us from Naruto, he told Kakashi. Yes, the Jonin nodded, and it's becoming annoying. Boruto clenched his right hand. I may have a solution though, he said hesitantly. Oh, but I need to be close to one of the explosions as soon as it happens, and then get closer to Deidara. Kakashi stared at the Akatsuki member above them who was in the middle of preparing the next attack. I can manage something, he told Boruto and sped ahead. Boruto breathed deeply and rolled the sleeve of his jacket up. It seems it was time. Sakura heard clanging noises and slowly opened her eyes after realizing she wasn't hurt. In front of her stood three figures. Really now, haven't you any manners? Chiyo's disapproving tone came from behind her. A man should be attentive when a lady speaks to him. Sakura noticed that the figure from her right and the figure from her left were puppets who appeared to have deflected some of the kunai, but in front of her. Sarada? Sakura asked in disbelief. Sarada was panting hard and her legs were shaking. In her hand there was a kunai. She somehow managed to deflect the kunai, heading straight towards Sarada by moving faster than Sakura could fathom. She's right, you know. Sarada's usually confident tone came out a little shaky, and after such a badass speech too. And here I thought adults had more manners than that. Sakura noticed that blood was trickling down Sarada's thighs. Sarada, are you? I'm fine. Sarada pulled the kunai out of her leg and then winced. You should be resting, child, Chiyo chided Sarada. Get behind me. Sarada gave Sakura an eye roll like Chiyo said, an amusing joke, but complied, moving behind Chiyo and grunting as she settled on the ground and began to attend to her leg wound. Sakura couldn't believe it even hurt. Sarada sprung into action and protected her, taking a kunai to her leg in the process, and afterward she just laughs it off. This girl was insane, but she's also amazing. So Sasori's eyes were trained on the puppets in front of Sakura. You brought them, you remember these, don't you? Chiyo said with a sing-song voice. Yeah, I suppose I do, Sasori said with an uninterested tone. That's right. Chiyo seemed to have lost years from her age, looking young and regal. These are the very first puppets you have ever created. The father and the mother. The father and mother, Sakura repeated after her in shock as she stared at the puppets that defended her. You mean Sasori's? What could you possibly hope to accomplish with them? Sasori didn't seem impressed. Those puppets were made by my hand. I know all their tricks. This is just silly. You're quite certain of that, are you? Chiyo didn't seem to be nervous at all. The puppets in front of them moved their hands in sync, joining their hands together and then pulling apart, revealing a few wires now wedged between them. Wire? Sakura wondered. Sakura. Chiyo looked at her. Clear out of the way, right? Sakura moved back to where Sarada was busy healing her wounds. Do you need help? She asked Sarada. The girl shook her head. I'm fine, she said. You need to focus on the fight. Her eyes found Sakura's onyx boring into jade. Sakura, she said. Yeah, don't take your eyes off the fight. Sakura blinked in confusion but turned her head to the fight at Sarada's request. Chiyo made the first move. Mother and father moved forward with their hands connected by the wire, flying ahead towards Sasori. Puppet Sasori made a flick with his wrist, drawing the third Kazekage puppet back together with the dozens of wooden hands that were connected to it. The hands were pulled out of the ground like a giant whip before being redirected and hurled towards mother and father. The puppets moved to the sides, tying the wire around a section of the wooden hands and cutting it off the wire, revealing to be as deadly as a sharpened sword. The puppets moved quickly, cutting sections of the hands with the wire like they were butter. Sasori made a pulling move with his hands, detaching the third Kazekage puppet from the wooden hands and pulling it back just before mother and father got to it. From where the wrist of the Kage used to be appeared a spinning circular saw blade, turning at full force. Chiyo thrusted her hand forward, making father move his arm to the side and manifest a long chain with kunai embedded into its sides. Out of Mother's robe appeared a sharp katana which the puppet immediately used to stop the rotating blade trying to saw her in half. Father tried to whip its chain at the third Kazekage puppet which made Sasori pulled his hand back to avoid. He then made the rotating blade attack Father instead, the puppet trying to block it with its chain and failing, the blade cutting a bit of the chain and damaging it. Mother then attacked with her blade stopping the rotating blade by making a horrible screeching sound of metal hitting moving metal. The battle was so fast Chio and Sasori seemed blurry as well as the puppets they were controlling. Sakura stared in awe, witnessing something normal people would never have the chance to experience. Incredible, she whispered. Finally Sasori drew his puppet back and Chio drew hers, both of them staring the other down. The third Kazekage puppet rotation blade was broken and so were his blades. Father's chain lacked almost all of its kunai and Mother's blade was broken beyond repair. This is starting to get messy, Sasori said in dismay. Guess I better play my next hand. He made a quick hand seal making the third Kazekage puppet open its mouth. Sakura and Chio tensed, staring at the puppet as weird black sand came out of it. So it's just as I suspected, Chio exclaimed. That's the third's jutsu, brings back memories. Sasori smirked. This jutsu is the reason the third is hailed as the most powerful ninja Suna has even known. He chuckled excitedly. I'm gonna grind you into dust. What is that? Sakura stared in confusion at the sand. The most terrifying jutsu in the history of Sunagakure. Chio moved into a combat position. The iron sand, Sakura repeated in awe. Chio nodded. This is one of the original jutsu of the third Kazekage himself, adapted by one used by the former host of the Shikaku. It can mold particles of the iron sand into any shape or weapon, making it perfect for every situation. She shook her head. The third had a very special physical constitution that allowed him to fuse chakra into magnetic forces. This puppet has the same ability. It's manipulating the sand by making its chakra magnetic. But how can that be? Sakura asked her. Even if it's made from the third Kazekage, this thing is still just a puppet. It's not like it's alive. How can a puppet hold chakra? It can't. That puppet is a real puppet built from a human body. It's fundamentally different from the father and mother puppets of mine. It's made from a real person. Chio gritted her teeth so loudly Sakura could hear it. Sasori is the only one who can produce human puppets. The puppet retains whatever chakra the body possessed in life behind them. Sarada began to shuffle around. Chio continued. The added benefit being the puppet can use whatever jutsu it had when it was alive. It's the great advantage human puppets have over ordinary ones. Sasori smiled, seeming proud of himself. There's more to it than that, he said. This puppet is my favorite out of my whole collection. Sakura. Chio's voice was low. Take Sarada and get out of here while you still can. Leave it to me, I'll handle this. She moved her hands preparing to fight. There's nothing more you can do against that. But Sakura quieted when she heard something from above them on the ceiling. Her eyes widened when she noticed a glint of something metallic connected to a paper ledge itself into the ceiling of the cave. But before she could look more closely or too slow, Sasori made a gesture and sent the iron sand their way. Before she could comprehend what's going on, a lot of things happened at once. First, Chio's puppets grabbed her and shielded her from the sand coming their way, throwing her several meters back onto her. But the force of the sand flying at them was so strong it created lots of dust which took a minute to disperse. When it eventually did, it revealed Chio had protected herself with the puppet of father, creating a chakra shield around herself. You've made some changes, I see, Sasori noted. And a chakra shield, at that a definite upgrade since I last played with them. The wall and ground around Chio were pierced with a million holes created by the iron sand. But wasn't there something behind Chio before? Wait, where? Sarada. Sakura's eyes widened as she looked around, but with her limited position being held by a puppet she couldn't crane her neck to see around the cave. In her field of vision it appeared that Sarada disappeared from view. Sakura could only hope she got out of the cave and got to safety. Suddenly father went limp, the chakra field around it and Chio dispersing. Sasori chuckled. You have to do more than just block it, he told Chio. You have to dodge this jutsu to survive. Is that it? Saving the girl is all you can manage, he laughed. The iron sand has crept in every crevice of the puppet. As long as I have the third's magnetic prowess, that puppet is worthless. Sakura gritted her teeth in frustration as Sasori sent another attack that exploded around them. Sakura protected herself with her arms as the world around her exploded loudly. She opened her eyes to a slit only to see the mother puppet protecting her. But that means that Chio is. Sakura froze, sensing something rather odd in Chio's direction. Behind the father puppet, Chio stood protected from harm, but the father puppet wasn't the one that saved her. It was her own modified arm that created the chakra shield. Chio was panting. The chakra shield clearly draining her. The chakra shield around mother dissolved, flickering out like a flame. Just an arm, but still rigging your own body. Sasori sounded impressed to Sakura's horror. That guy was seriously messed up. We puppet masters are all alike, our minds work the same, don't they? Chio panted even harder and Sakura looked closely at the woman's modified arm. It looked like Chio was trying to return it to its original form, yet it wouldn't let it. Sasori chuckled with amusement. Of course, now I understand Chiyo said with sorrow while looking at her no longer responding arm. Sakura was about to ask what she was talking about when a creaking sound came from her in front of her. The mother puppet was shaking. Iron sand seeping into all of its cracks. Once the iron sand gets in, it's the end of the line. Sasori smirked widely. The puppet's useless. So granny, what now? Sakura frowned. In her perspective it was almost like he was calling Chiyo useless. Take away all of their puppets, and even the greatest masters are nothing. Sasori shook his head in bemusement. Some dust suddenly descended around Sakura from above, making her sneeze. Chiyo and Sasori ignored her and continued to stare at each other. Chiyo reached her moving hand to her modified arm, and with one smooth movement she detached the arm from the rest of her body, the wooden tool falling to the ground with a clanking sound. How could I let it come to this? How could I be so blind? Chiyo said with great sadness. And now what will I do? Sakura, you have to run away. I already told you there's nothing you can do. Chiyo pleaded. Run away and leave Chiyo-sama to face him alone. Sakura couldn't understand. No, there must be something. There has to be something that even I can do. She glared at the ceiling looking for the answer, and the ceiling gave her one. Her eyes widened in understanding. Of course there is something, one thing only I can do. She began formulating a plan. It was going to be reckless, idiotic, and incredibly dangerous. Naruto would be proud. Let's see. Yes, I think it's time I attacked both of you at once. Sasori made a gesture with his wrist. Just to make sure you're really dead, I'll use my most lethal form. All around them the iron sand slowly crept upwards, creating two large shapes that slowly regained a more consistent form. The now-shaped sand hovered over them, threatening. He made another gesture, and the shapes of the sand around him became clearer, beginning to take two forms: a pyramid and a prism. You won't get away this time, Sasori said with a cold look in his eyes. Sasori counted. You can't protect both of you, can you? Granny, what do you say to that? You which of you will die? Sakura ignored him, walking to stand in front. Chiyo with iron resolve. Lady Chiyo, she said, straightening her gaze directly into Sasori's eyes. You can use me to fight him, that's it. That's what I can do. My body's made of flesh and blood, so he can't stop me with that iron sand, she explained to the woman. I have only one arm now, I won't be able to support you like last time. Chiyo cautioned her. I'll be alright, Sakura assured her, and she will be, because there was something neither Chiyo nor Sasori knew that Sakura did, and that is what's going to bring Sasori down. It's true that I might not be rigged up with a bunch of fancy weapons like some of these puppets. This has to work, it will work, but the unbending spirit of my teacher hasn't been drilled into me for nothing. She didn't see Chiyo's expression, but she felt the chakra wires of her jutsu connect to her body. You're right, Chiyo said. The third Kazekage's magnetic force has rendered iron and steel useless. Sakura hit her open palm with her fist. Exactly like my teacher, I can fight with my bare hands. Sasori sighed. Not this again, you fool. Sakura smirked, trying to think. Be like how Sarada was when the fight only started. Be confident, be calm, be like you have iron in your blood. With newly renewed spirits, Sakura lunged forward, the pyramid lunging at her with the intent of piercing her torso. Chiyo pulled her back at the last second, saving her from the impact. The pyramid hit the ground, instead blowing it up into bits of rubble as it drilled through it until it hit the wall of the cave and pierced through it. Sakura's eyes flitted to the ceiling for a moment. Everything was okay. She refocused, landing on her feet. She had not a second to miss before the huge iron prism was trying to squash her. Coming down from above, she jumped backwards with a flip and rolled away, then lunged forward with her fist raised. Be a badass, arg, she yelled as she enveloped her fist with chakra and punched it with all her might, sending it flying towards Sasori and sending shockwaves throughout the cave. Sasori flew back, landing on the wall of the cave with his feet. How dare you? Sakura didn't care. She smirked, finally understanding why Sarada was so hyped at the start of the fight. Being able to fight was incredible. That's just the beginning. Shanro. Sasori jumped off the wall and smirked. He made a pulling gesture with his wrists, summoning back to his side both the pyramid that was lodged in the wall and the prism behind him. Another flick of his fingers and the pyramid started spinning fast, becoming a drill. It flew towards Sakura, making her jump away at the last moment before it hit her, but it didn't stop there. The drill hit the ground and continued moving forward, following Sakura's trajectory while she was still in the air. Before she could even land, the prism came down on her from above, making her move back even further to narrowly avoid it. The drill flew up from the ground to where she was about to land, barely letting her set her feet on the ground before she was up in the air again. Avoiding it, she landed on the prism and pushed her feet off it, sending her flying directly to the pyramid. She hit the flying pyramid, sending it spinning towards Sasori. The drill flew into the ground next to him, buried deep into the stone. Sasori made a flick of his wrist and the prism came to life. Sakura landed on the ground and launched towards it over their hush. She used the power of her kick to send it flying up and lunged it into the ceiling. She blinked at the prism as she landed. I didn't mean for it to get stuck there. The area around the prism began to form cracks and a few heavy rocks fell down from the ceiling. Not good, she thought. I need to keep the ceiling intact for a while longer. Sasori made an annoyed sound, pulling the prism back towards Sakura with the clear Intent of crushing her, Sakura jumped out of the way only to fall directly into the trajectory of the pyramid. Sakura, Chio shouted in concern. Sakura gritted her teeth. Is that all you got? She yelled as her fist connected with the pyramid and she sent it flying. The cave shook again at the power of her blow, making more rubble rain from the ceiling. The pyramid flew all the way into the wall of the cave, piercing through it and sending rubble into the river outside. By the sounds of splashes, Sakura landed glaring at Sasori. You'd best to give up now, she told him, before I'd pummel you to the ground. Sasori scoffed. There's nothing a mere girl like you can do to defeat me, even if you manage to evade my attacks so far with the help of the hags. Soon enough you'll grow tired and I will kill you and add you to my collection. Oh really? Came a voice from above them. Wanna bet more on what? Sasori looked up in shock just in time to see Sarada smirking at him, standing next to the hole the prism created. All around her on the ceiling were explosive tags strategically located where once they will be activated the cave will explode. Earlier when Chio was pleading Sakura to flee, Sakura looked up and noticed Sarada, who somehow quietly snuck up the cave wall to the ceiling and was rigging the ceiling with ever since she disappeared from sight a few minutes ago. She smirked before Sasori could finish comprehending what was happening. Sarada made a hand seal and jumped through the hole in the ceiling out of the cave, and then the ceiling exploded. Kakashi sped after Naruto whilst not removing his eyes from Deidara. He wants to fight Naruto one-on-one. Suddenly from behind them a loud crashing sound was heard. That noise? Kakashi's eye darted over his shoulder. What's going on? More and more crashing sounds were heard. Sounds like it came from Sakura, Sarada, and Chiyo-sama's direction, but I can't be sure, and we're also out of transmission range. It seems Boruto also noticed those sounds. Having stopped mid-step he looked back, fist clenched. Boruto, Kakashi called him. Do you want to go back? Boruto turned to him, his face making it clear he was battling himself. Eventually he shook his head. They can handle it right now, we gotta focus on him. Even without pointing at anyone, Kakashi knew he meant Naruto. Kakashi nodded and turned around, speeding up again. I've gotta hurry. From ahead of them Naruto growled, step it up, Kakashi Sensei, if we don't get a move on we'll lose him. It's okay, Kakashi tried to reassure him. You're the whole reason he's here, don't forget that. Kakashi glared at the man on the bird. He won't get so far ahead as to lose us completely. Fine then, just tell me how to take this guy down already, we're running out of time. Shut up. Surprisingly it was Boruto who spoke up. He sped up to Kakashi and glared at Naruto. We're working on it, but running blindly ahead with nothing but anger won't help anybody, so for the love of God shut up. It seemed to have worked for a moment. Neither Kakashi nor Naruto used to seeing the calm and rational Boruto losing his cool. From the corner of his eye Kakashi saw that Boruto's right sleeve was rolled up and his fist was clenched. Was it part of the plan? He spoke of, don't you lecture me, that bastard has Gaara and I need to. Naruto tried to argue but Boruto cut him off. I didn't say you need to stop pursuing the guy, I just need you to be quiet. This he winced, grabbing his arm. This will take a moment. What will? Kakashi asked him while retaining one eye on the target. Something I really didn't want to use, Boruto grumbled, rubbing his arm. See Naruto. Kakashi turned to his student. We've got a plan in mind, we just need a little more time to set it into motion. I can't hang back anymore, don't you get it? Naruto yelled. I gotta get to Gaara before it's too late. Suddenly the Akatsuki member sped up, alerting Naruto. Hey you jerk. Naruto pushed himself off the tree trunk with even more force, flying ahead of them. Get back here, Naruto. Wait, Kakashi shouted after him. God fucking damn it, Boruto cursed and then winced, tightening his hold over his arm. Ugh, I really hate this part. He glanced at Kakashi. You need to stop him before he does something stupid and get himself killed. I'll catch up to you. Are you sure? Kakashi didn't need Boruto to tell him to run after Naruto, but the boy seemed to be in pain. You don't look so good. I'll look even worse if that guy dies. Boruto cracked a smile. Believe me, I'll be fine, you know. Kakashi frowned but nodded and sped up, using chakra to jump ahead. He focused on his student's back, realizing something. There's no getting through to him now. I have no choice. His hand crept to his pouch where he kept the last resort option. There's no option left. Himawari saw Kakashi and Boruto split up, Kakashi moving further away to chase Naruto and Boruto slowing down and clutching his right arm. With her Byakugan she could tell he's channeling a lot of chakra into his palm. Her eyes widened as she glanced towards Naruto and channeled more chakra into her feet, running ahead. If her brother is going to use that, she'll go ahead and buy him all the time he needs. It's time to show the world that the daughter of Naruto Uzumaki is more than just a title. Sarada landed on her feet a few meters away from Sakura and staggered, forgetting her wounded leg. Trying to look up immediately got her dizzy, reminding her of how injured she was. Panting, she placed her hands on her thighs and bent down a little to catch her breath. It seems that using so much chakra as well as her careless use of the Sharingan has drained her more than she'd like to admit. Oh well, that just means they'll have to end Sasori just a little bit quicker. That's some impressive strength from such a little girl, Sasori said to a panting Sakura with great amusement. Sarada felt her eye twitch. A little girl who just kicked your ass. More on. Sasori flicked his wrist, sending the pyramid towards Sakura without hesitation. Sakura jumped backwards utilizing the first skill Tsunade taught them to the fullest. He continued with the onslaught attack, not letting Sakura drop her guard for 1 second. It was starting to take a toll on Sakura as well, now even more bruised than Sarada. Sakura stared at Sasori for a moment before lunging forward at the same time. The pyramid did. She jumped to the right just as the pyramid hit where she stood a moment ago, continuing to run towards the puppet. Master Sarada stared in awe, being reminded of how awesome her mother truly was even when she was younger. I have to do better too. I can't let mama down. Sasori moved his hand down and the prism came down on Sakura from above again. The girl barely dodging it. Sakura then pivoted on her ankle and punched the prism back to where the pyramid was, making them crash into each other. Sakura stared at Sasori with a calculated gaze, one that Sarada knew very well. She was studying him as a medical ninja. One must always predict where the enemy will attack and act accordingly. A medic must never get hurt. Sakura had installed that lesson into Sarada's brain from a young age. Fine then. Sarada clenched her fists. If she needs time to study him, then I'll buy her that time. Suddenly Sasori moved. He struck a stand, making both the prism and pyramid smash into each other, morphing into one, being the third Kazekage's magnetic force, emitted out of the puppet and waves iron sand. World order. From where the prism and pyramid were now began to evolve something that seemed like multiple incredibly sharp-looking black tree branches. Its range is enormous. Sarada stared in shock, barely noticing the branches coming down on Sakura. No. Sarada grabbed the nearest boulder to her and flung it in the branch's direction just as Chiyo pulled Sakura back with her chakra threads. What Sarada didn't account for, however, was the fact that she was also a target for the branches. Crap. Sarada! Sakura's concerned shout echoed through the crater. Sarada was panting hard. Blood was dripping down her leg. Her wound must have reopened. She looked down to assess the damage, only to be encountered with the sight of an iron branch piercing her leg. As soon as she saw it, the searing pain shot up her body and exploded behind her eyes. She cried out, not even able to fall to her knees even as they gave out due to the iron inside of her leg just above her knee. No. She tried to clear her head. You're a medical ninja. You're a kunoichi. You're a goddamn Uchiha. This is nothing. She forced herself to look down at the wound and placed her hand over it, sending slow healing chakra into the wound to make sure no irreversible damage has occurred. A quick assessment told her that even though this hurt like hell, she'll survive. Good. Next she turned her head to where Sakura stood like her. It seems like Sakura was hit by the branches. Unlike Sarada, however, Sakura was not pierced, only getting a small cut. The girl was panting as well, holding onto her arm where the blood was seeping out from the wound. We didn't dodge it. Sarada realized we were poisoned. So you soaked the iron sand in poison as well? Chiyo asked Sasori in shock. Half buried beneath a boulder, suddenly Sakura fell to her knees. Sarada's herd whipped in the pink-haired girl's direction as she watched her fellow kunoichi fall to the ground. Sakura! Sarada screamed in distress. No, 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 this is bad. She could feel the poison making its way in her system as well, but she also knew she had an unfair advantage over Sakura. Future Sakura! Sarada's mother had bequeathed her regenerative abilities to Sarada with birth. Even now Sarada's cells were battling with the poison. It was a losing battle, she knew, but it'll buy her enough time. Soon her body will go numb and she won't be able to move. Sasori told them with a smile. Left alone, she may last 3 days, he commented before turning to Sarada. I don't know how you managed to fight the poison, but it's no use. In no time you will be joining her. He moved fast, thrusting his arms forward and sending the third's puppet towards Sakura's twitching body. From the puppet's arm emerged a huge blade and it descended on Sakura from the sky like some sick Grim Reaper metaphor. It's over, little girl. Sasori smiled manically. Not on my watch. Sarada summoned her strength from a place she didn't know existed inside of her and broke the iron branch lodged inside her leg, pulling out the remaining piece and casting it aside. She grabbed the closest boulder to her and threw it not at the puppet but at the puppet master, her arms aching as she did. Just as the boulder hit Sasori, Sakura suddenly rose to her fist and crushed the third Kazekage's puppet with her fist, its pieces flying all around her like really ugly confetti. Sarada stared in awe at the cold gaze in her mother's eyes and the unwavering stance she held. Amazing. She always knew her mother was fierce. Even Lord Seventh and Papa were afraid of her wrath, but to witness it for herself like that in a time before her mother even had the Byakugo was truly something else. Suddenly all around them the iron branches began to lose form, falling to the ground in heaps. Sakura leaped in the air, reaching Chiyo, whose arm was still trapped beneath the boulder. Sarada on the other hand scanned the area where she hit Sasori. With the boulder he had already emerged from the situation with barely any scratches on him, but Sarada was glad she threw the boulder anyway. Even if anything wouldn't have changed, it still helped her work out her anger a bit. Sakura grabbed the boulder holding Chiyo down and threw it away with ease, helping the elderly woman up to a sitting position. Sarada saw how Sasori's gaze was trained to Sakura, calculating he must not have understood how Sakura managed to move so well for someone who had been poisoned. Sakura! Chiyo stared at the girl. How can you be moving? I used The antidote. Sakura smiled brightly. Thank goodness it worked. Of course, Sarada mentally snapped her fingers and understanding the antidote we created to cure Kankuro. They were in the greenhouse in Suno working on creating the antidote for Kankuro. Sakura was grinding the herbs whilst Sarada was measuring the amounts. I'd never imagined we'd find such a wide variety of herbs in Sunagakure. Sakura commented. Well, we try. Answered of Suna's medics. Our soil isn't very good for growing stuff like that. For example, we can't grow much scurvy grass. I think it's amazing, Sarada noted while jotting down some notes on the measurements. Even though scientifically nothing is supposed to be growing in the desert, you still managed to make this huge greenhouse. And besides, Sakura said there's enough here for us to make 3 doses of the antidote. We were barely able to make 3, and we already gave 1 to Kankuro. Sarada bit her lip. If Sakura used the second one, she clenched her fist. I don't have much time before I pass out. I give the poison 5 minutes max. Catch is the antidote is only potent for 3 minutes, Sakura said, bringing Sarada back from her head. While it's working, whatever poison my body is exposed to turns into harmless protein. I understand. Chio nodded. That's why I didn't try to fight back, Sakura explained. I didn't want Sasori to know I had this antidote. I knew he'd reveal his plan once he let his guard down, so I had to take the chance and wait for the last possible moment. Sakura presented the last antidote to Chio. Here, I want you to keep this safe, Chio-sama. Chio looked confused. But what about? She looked at Sarada, who was shaking her head as subtly as she could. The message was clear. Don't tell Sakura I was poisoned. Sarada knew this was stupid, but it was the last antidote, and it needed to be saved for severe emergencies. Her regenerative cells will help her fight off the poison for a few more minutes, and then, well, Sasori did say a person can survive 3 days with the poison in their system, right? Chio eventually complied and took the antidote before wincing in pain. Sakura immediately scanned her, taking off her glove to use her healing technique better whilst being healed. Chio looked at Sarada, who was having a hard time steadying her breathing. It was clear she was asking Sarada why she wouldn't take the antidote. Sarada just shook her head and focused on giving first aid treatment to her lead wounds. If she won't treat them now, she might even develop a limp later on, and she can't have it. She didn't have enough chakra to heal the wounds completely, but she did have enough to close them. It might scar later though. Finishing her treatment, Sarada carefully applied pressure on her leg. It hurt a lot, but she'll power through it. For the next 5 minutes she'll be able to fight off the poison and battle Sasori. For the next 3 minutes Sakura will be able to do the same. Sakura finished Chio's treatment, immediately collapsing and breathing heavily. Will she really manage? 3 minutes, Sarada wondered. They were both exhausted, and Sakura was battling the poison poorer than Sarada since she didn't have the ability to regenerate yet. But Sarada, on the other hand, was carrying an exhaustion all the way back from Suna, and she have used her Sharingan more than recommended, spending her chakra even faster. It was obvious that Sakura was also reaching her limits, which meant they had to end it all now, or else we die, Sarada thought grimly. And if Sakura dies, I die either way. Himawari landed on a branch and felt like all the wind was knocked out of her ankle, her twisted ankle she kept abusing in her chase after Naruto, Boruto, and Kakashi. It was almost definitely fractured by now. If they were going to survive this, Boruto and Sarada are going to kill her. She breathed deeply, feeling sweat trickling down her face. It wasn't just the pain from her ankle, she was hurting all over since her last fight that she could only vaguely remember, and it didn't help that she was running low on chakra since she has used the Byakugan almost non-stop since 2 days ago. At this rate she'll only last an hour at most. Better make that count. Then Kakashi felt something was wrong. A moment before said something happened. Suddenly a white clay spider jumped in front of his face, giving Kakashi half a second to jump out of the way before it exploded. He landed on the wall only for 2 more spiders to jump after him and explode. He moved backward to a tree trunk, sitting in a crouched position. What he mumbled as he examined the spiders with his Sharingan: these aren't like the bird ones from before, they're smaller. Is that so they won't get picked off by shuriken? Why so many? They were crowding him from the front, an army of white spots. He focused on one of the closest to him. Judging from the size of their hind legs, I'd say their special ability is jumping, and I guess it's going to come down to a battle of speed. He made a hand seal and channeled chakra to his legs, pushing off the trunk with a speed that made the wind screech in his ears. Unfortunately, just as he reached the next trunk, he located a few spiders in front of his face, them exploding before he could even blink. He pushed himself up above the trunks, but they followed, exploding in midair just in front of him, sending him flying backwards. He barely landed on his feet when he noticed how much further Naruto had gotten. Naruto, wait up, he yelled at his student. You're slowing me down, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto shouted back, I'm going on ahead. Kakashi gave him a stern look. Don't do anything reckless. Naruto's answer came echoing from ahead. Yeah, I know. Kakashi sighed. This might be a bit of a sticky situation. And then his savior appeared. Kakashi-sensei. He looked up to see Himawari, who he knew had been following them ever since they left the cave. She stood in the shadows of the woods, so he couldn't really see her face, but it was her voice all right. Himawari, good. He pointed ahead at where Naruto was. Think you might be able to speed ahead and make sure Naruto won't do anything stupid. Her expression hardened. Of course, don't worry about it. And before he could even thank her, she was gone, which meant he was free to deal with these annoying spiders. Sakura finished healing herself and grabbed her glove, putting it on again and standing up. Time to refocus the rest of my chakra to attack. She glanced at Sarada, who was also in a pretty bad shape. We've only got 3 minutes to do this. We're running low on time. Sakura turned to Chio. Are healed enough for a fight? Chio-sama, let's go. Sakura. Chio got up with determination. It's time we put an end to this. Kakashi watched the clay creatures. I gotta think. I can't waste time having a staring contest with these things. If I leave Naruto on his own, he could lose control at any moment. He jumped backward and watched as the spiders followed him, jumping towards him and then landing in front of him, waiting. They won't let me fall back and build up enough speed to break past them. He realized they're maintaining this distance. An idea popped in his head. In that case, he jumped down from the trunk and started climbing up, moving in the opposite direction of Naruto, Deidara, and Himawari. He sped up through the trunks, the spiders following suit. Come on guys, stay right on my tail. Finally, he found what he was looking for, a huge tree trunk blocking the way. He hit it with his feet and used it to push himself off, flying in the direction of the others. He glanced behind him and saw how the spiders were preparing to follow him. He smirked. There they go. The spiders attached themselves to his body. Here goes nothing. They exploded. Naruto looked back at the sound of the explosion. That wasn't Kakashi-sensei. Was it a flap of wings? Diverted his attention from the explosion, making him look forward. Instead, his eyes widened as he saw Deidara slowly descend down in front of him on his bird, making Naruto halt. At last, now it's just the 2 of us, Deidara said with a smile. Naruto scowled. Don't be like that. Deidara laughed. And here I was about to let you see your friend. The clay bird opened its mouth, revealing the body of an unconscious Gaara. Naruto's anger grew, and he gritted his teeth. Oh, that's right, you're a Jinchuriki too. Deidara smirked, showing he knew so from the start. I bet seeing him like this drives you crazy. Give him back right now. And Naruto lunged forward, only to be stopped by 2 hands on his shoulders. Don't do it, Kakashi cautioned him. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto gasped. Oh man, I could have sworn you just bought it back there, Deidara said in disappointment. Sorry. Kakashi didn't sound sorry in the least, but it wasn't the real me that blew up. He glared at the clay user. Next time you should teach your spiders the difference between a shadow clone and a real person. That is, if there's a next time. Deidara didn't retort back, his scowl deepening as he began to fly away. Don't move. Naruto was about to lunge after him when Kakashi stopped him again. I could say the same to you, he told Naruto. It'll be alright, we will get Gaara back, so calm down. Naruto frowned and looked away. Listen, Naruto, Kakashi was looking at Deidara. You're not used to fight an opponent like this, and that's not all. You're a close combat fighter, and he excels in long range. That makes him your worst enemy. Kakashi squeezed his shoulder. There are only 2 ways to beat this kind of foe, he said. One is to force him to fight up close and personal. Your only other option is to beat him at his own game. What? Naruto stared at his sensei. How can we do that? Depending on which option is chosen, you'll either need a long-range specialist or someone on your team who can use long-range ninjutsu to support that kind of distance combat. If you don't have one or the other, then there's no way you'll beat him, period. He smiled. Then now, if you had the superior intellect of Shikamaru, that would be a different story. Spill it out, will you? Naruto was getting impatient. Which one are you, Kakashi-sensei? Amiha. Kakashi's voice was dripping with smugness. Well, I have a superior intellect like Shikamaru. I'm a Jonin, and I can sustain long-range battle. Then we meet all the conditions, right? Naruto's almost non-existent patience was being tested. That's why I told you to calm down, Kakashi said in resignation. Then let's hurry up and get to it. It's not as simple as it sounds, Kakashi said. We can't chase after him. He'll never leave himself open. He infiltrated Tsunagakure and defeated Gaara all by himself, and even more dangerous, he's a member of the Akatsuki. Kakashi recapped all they knew about their opponent. It's a tough challenge. We're gonna have to punch a hole through his defenses. We're gonna have to work together. What are we punching now? A voice came from behind them. Both Kakashi and Naruto turned around to see Boruto standing on a tree trunk, breathing loudly like he just ran a lot. Naruto saw that the guy was holding his arm like it was something hot that was burning him. Just in time. Kakashi nodded at the newcomer. How's that plan of yours coming along? Fan-freaking-tastic. Boruto grumbled. It's been a while since I used it, so it took longer than usual to activate, and I only have enough to attack once, so you'd better make it count. Kakashi scanned Boruto's arm. Can you do long-range? Boruto scoffed. Is the sky blue? The silver-haired Jonin nodded. Very well, you'll have to wait for my signal. Got it. Boruto glanced at Naruto and smiled. We're gonna get Gaara back, you know. I know that already. Naruto turned to Deidara. He's not getting away. Deidara at that exact moment started getting away. Naruto was about to jump after him when Kakashi spoke again. If you were following my train of thought, then keep listening. I've got a plan. Okay, Sakura, let's get him. Chio told Sakura. The Pink-haired girl nodded. Right a bit further from them Sarada was preparing for battle as well. In front of them Sasori reached to his cloak and began unbuttoning it. I haven't been forced to solve a problem this way since I joined the Akatsuki, he told them as he discarded his cloak to the ground. I wonder how long it's been, Sakura gasped upon seeing his body. What is that now I see, Chio said darkly. The reason he looks exactly the same as the day he left. Of course the age doesn't affect him. The reason is staring us right in the face. Oh yes, it's been a while indeed, puppet, Sasori said as it stared at them. Since I last used myself. He's actually a human puppet. Sakura was horrified. Boruto followed Kakashi and Naruto as they ran after Deidara, his arm throbbing. I wasn't sure if it'll work if he's not here, but Boruto glanced at his arm. It seems it doesn't matter. You all set? Kakashi asked them. Yeah, I got it, Naruto said. Don't worry, I'm good on my end too, Boruto said, running on the plan in his head. One last time, here we go then. Kakashi made a hand seal. Sarada stared at Sasori with disgust. As a medic she was trained to learn and appreciate the human body, so to see a body this inhuman was more revolting than she'd thought it'd be. She suspected he was a puppet ever since they first met him. Since her Sharingan gave her mixed readings on him, it was like she could only read half of his movements, but now it was all clear. He was only half human. That means that all of the weapons inside of his body are covered in poison as well. She figured this was bad. She could feel her body starting to give in, and they weren't even 2 minutes into the whole ordeal. They need to end him quickly. Something wrong? Sasori glared at them. I'm sorry, weren't you supposed to finish me off? He moved his hands forward and revealed tubes in the center of each palm. Well, if you're not going to attack me, then I'll have to make the first move. The tubes released focused fire directly onto Chio and Sakura, making them jump away. He's not even interested in me, Sarada realized, and then smirked. Good, you think you can hide from me? Sasori sounded amused. He redirected his hands to where Sakura and Chio were hiding and released more fire. Sarada clicked her tongue and grabbed a boulder. Well, it was time to show him. Ignoring her was a big mistake. Hey you, she yelled. No one ignores me. She threw the boulder on him, making him cease fire. To narrowly avoid it, you insolent little girl, he yelled at her. That's me. She smirked at him. Something wrong? He directed his palm at her and released fire, making her take cover behind a large boulder. Chio and Sakura chose this moment to jump out. Sasori immediately drawn to Chio. Time to die, which he released an intense stream of flames that caught Chio, only for her to disappear and reveal she used the substitution jutsu. Chio appeared behind another boulder, thrusting the head of the third Kazakage's puppet at Sasori. Let's finish this, boy, you wish, Sasori directed his flames at the puppet head, burning it to ashes. I figured as much. You attached a chakra thread during our last go around, but that trick won't work a second time. Too bad for you, huh? He used his flames again, making Chio and Sakura take cover. If he's a puppet, does that mean he's made of wood? Sarada wondered. She jumped from behind him, making the hand seal she had been taught by her father long ago. Fire style fireball jutsu. She felt the familiar feeling of searing heat in her throat before she breathed out a large fireball on Sasori back. Unfortunately, one of his arms simply rotated in place and directed the flame tube onto the incoming fireball, canceling it out. Sarada landed and found a place to hide seconds before he tried to fry her in place. What's wrong, Sasori asked Sakura, and Chio don't want to play. Sarada cursed in her mind. She knew Sakura's antidote will last for barely another minute, and her own body was starting to give up on her. Suddenly Sasori's fire switched into water, releasing 2 strong streams directly at the 2 water on hot stone. Sarada frowned. What is he trying to? Her eyes widened. Get back, she yelled to them. The boulders they were hiding behind broke from the force of the streams, forcing them to jump back, but Sasori didn't stop their running after them. He rotated his hands so that the stream would become more focused, and used it as though it was a long-range blade to cut through any rock and boulder they had behind. Sasori let his hands fall to his sides as she stared at them. How long do you plan to dance around? Sarada scanned his back from her hiding spot. He had a box-like contraption with scrolls and it attached to his back, with a scroll disappearing every time he used a different element with his tubes. Was that perhaps what allowed him to do so? She coughed, feeling the metallic taste of blood lingering in her mouth. Only 2 minutes left. Sakura must be on her last seconds. Sasori smirked. Fine, be that way. His body went limp for a moment before he released his wire, the thing flying towards Sakura with high speed. Sakura, Sarada shouted at her, but it was too late. The thing pierced Sakura's side, most likely adding more poison to her bloodstream, and her antidote would lose its effect in a mere few seconds. The wire's head hit the ground and curled around itself, pulling Sasori towards Chio and Sakura. Die, he yelled, the spinning blades at his waist gaining more speed by the second. No, Sarada watched, paralyzed. She can't die, and not again. I can't watch it happen. Chio-sama. Sakura ran to Chio, losing even more blood as she did without fail. Sarada realized what Sakura was about to do, and she'll be damned if she's going to let her do it. Sakura grabbed Sasori's wire and started pulling him towards her in order to move him away from Chio, and Sarada chose that moment to act with her Sharingan. Flaring into life, she ignored the pounding headache that began behind her eyes and scanned the scene before her for openings. Their 10 seconds left. Her mind reminded her she jumped. Sakura stopped Sasori and pulled him away with her enhanced strength. 8 seconds. Sarada clenched her fist, channeling her chakra into it. Sakura threw Sasori in the air like he weighed nothing. Get over here, you little. 5 seconds. Sarada descended from above her, sudden shadow causing Sasori to glance up in confusion. Sakura prepared her fist as the man puppet flew closer. 2 seconds. Shn and Arrow, both their voices echoed in the crater as their fists collided with Sasori's body. Sarada from above, her fist going through his side, and Sakura from the front, her fist going through his stomach. Sasori's puppet body blew into pieces. 1 second. Sarada landed in front of an exhausted Sakura who was panting even harder than she was and deactivated her Sharingan. Sakura fell to her knees choking for air. Sarada crouched beside her, checking her temperature. Definitely a fever, she noted. She patted Sakura's back comfortingly. You were amazing just now. It was so. Shnro. Even in her tired state, Sakura managed to spare her a smile. We were able to beat him just before the antidote wore off for you. Maybe, Sarada thought with a sigh, I would have survived a bit longer. We did it. Sakura breathed in relief. We really did it well, Chiyo-sama. Sarada turned to Chiyo, who was watching them both in awe. Chiyo smiled. You both well done, girls. Sakura smiled happily and Sarada grinned. They did it. Himawari knew she was reaching her limits, but she had to push forward just a little bit more, and everything will end. Naruto stared ahead. Hey sensei, you ready or what? Hold your horses. Kakashi didn't look at him. Remember, it's going to take time. I don't have as much chakra as you. Boruto rolled his eyes. Nobody has as much chakra as him. Hey, what? Boruto looked at him defiantly. It's a good thing, idiot. Naruto blinked. Was Boruto trying to calm him down with teasing? He looked back ahead, thoroughly confused. Sakura got up slowly, hugging her side. She tried to take a step forward and almost tripped over her legs before Sarada shot up and catched her, supporting her body with her own. Together they both walked towards Chiyo, wounded and battered but alive, and then she heard it clank clink hollow wood. Sakura stopped in her tracks, the sounds of the broken puppet behind her growing stronger in front of her. Chiyo's relived expression morphed into one of terror as she watched the happenings behind Sakura. Sakura turned her head, almost excruciatingly slow back, watching as the red-haired puppet head leisurely flew up and reconnected to the rest of its body, and then turned 360 degrees from back to front to stare at them. What are you so happy about? Sasori asked them, his face the epitome of unhappiness. Sakura gaped, not able to believe what she was witnessing. That's right. Chiyo made a movement with her hand, and the rest of her wooden arm, which was buried in the rubble, flew out and reconnected to her wooden stump. The fight has only begun. Sakura turned to look at her in shock. Begun? But didn't they defeat him? Chiyo pulled out a scroll. I forbade even myself from using this jutsu. She began to open it. I never imagined I would have to use it again. She glared at Sasori. But against you I must. She threw open the scroll, revealing it to be a summoning one, making a hand seal. She said, let's finish this here and now. All characters on the scroll glowed, detaching themselves from it and growing larger into unclear shapes until finally they morphed into 10 puppets surrounding Chiyo. It seems that the ability of a puppet master is measured by the number of puppets they can use. Sasori commented, I'd expect no less from you, grandmother. Sakura stared in awe. It's so many of them next to her. Sarada frowned. No, she said, there's not enough, Granny. Chiyo's secret multiple digits. I've heard tales of their glory. Sasori sounded genuinely interested, which creeped Sakura out much more than his usual uninterested tone. You once destroyed a Hu fortress with it. Secret white move. Chikamatsu's 10 puppets, the first puppet masters, Monzaman's 10 masterpieces, an exquisite collection. Sasori smirked, reaching for a scroll from his back. However, he opened his scroll towards the sky and then opened a small door in his wooden chest, summoning the contents of the scroll with the chakra stored in his chest and sending multiple chakra threads to connect to them. Sakura stared in sheer horror at the amount of puppets blocking the sun with their number. I used these, Sasori said with pride, to destroy an entire nation. The puppets all revealed several different weapons, each clearly skilled in controlling their charge. Secret red move. Performance of 100 puppets. Sasori recited the jutsu. It's showtime. Sakura and Sarada moved back, standing in front of Chiyo and entering a battle stances. Out of the corner of her eyes, Sakura noticed that Sarada seemed to be panting and in pain. Could it be her wounds? The reminder of injuries caused her to place her gloved hand over the wound on her side and channel some healing chakra into it, hoping it'll relieve some of the tension in her body for a while. Sakura, Chiyo spoke, that antidote of yours has already worn off, dear. Stay out of this. Sakura stared at her for a moment before smiling. It's not in me to give up. She turned to glare at Sasori and his puppets. Quitting's not an option. Sarada stretched her arms. Well, you heard her, Chiyo-sama, she said with a smirk, her onyx eyes glinting with anticipation. Looks like the only way you're getting rid of us is to finish this fight and kicking our sorry asses back to Konoha. Chiyo was quiet for a moment before speaking, her smile evident in her tone. How silly of me, she said. You both inherit Tsunade's strong will and the typical Konoha shinobi's foolery. Both Sakura and Sarada chuckled at that. What say you we make this the finale though? Are you ready girls? Yes Sakura said. Ma'am. Sarada answered. Sasori leaned forward and Sakura knew it was about to begin. Here they come, Chio warned. All at once 100 puppets lunged at them from the sky. Chio sent 2 of her puppets ahead, combining to take down a few of the incoming waves. 24 puppets attacked Sakura and Sarada, flanking all of their sides. They fought back to back, Sakura avoiding the blades and delivering punches while Sarada was grabbing the puppets by their arms and swinging them at their forces. Sakura was amazed that even in this state, wounded, bleeding, and almost without any chakra left, Sarada forged ahead with the experience of a fighter who's been on the battlefield for years, not an inexperienced rookie. They locked gazes for a second and Sakura's eyes widened in shock, when instead of Sarada it was like she was witnessing a version of Sasuke, her Sasuke, and then she blinked and Sarada was back kicking a wooden puppet's ass. Sakura smirked. Maybe Sarada was like Sasuke in appearance and manners, but she also reminded her of herself, and it was a damned good reminder. She avoided a blade and pooched the attacking puppet in the stomach, jumping above an attack aimed at her legs and kicking the attacking puppet in the face, destroying it. She grabbed an incoming puppet's arm and threw it in Sarada's direction. Sarada didn't even need to hear the rest, raising her fist and allowing the puppet to impale itself on it upon contact, and then using the limp wooden body and throwing it at another 2 puppets coming at her from the side. Sakura felt as if Sarada was tuned to her every thought and movement, able to execute any plan without words, and she loved that feeling. Chio threw the remains of her puppets at the enemy, controlling them like a Meister's orchestra. They went through the waves of the enemy like a knife cutting butter, each puppet's mastery showing new and interesting ways of bisecting wooden dolls. Treasure suction crush. Chio recited the jutsu and 3 of her puppets released a powerful gust of wind that blew dozens of puppets away. Sakura panted, staggering backwards as she watched the one of Chio's puppets cutting Sasori's puppets. As they came behind her, she heard Sarada cough and then the sound of splatter liquids make when they hit the ground. Turning around, she saw Sarada coughed. Blood, said liquid, also running down from her nose. Sakura examined her quickly. This is, I didn't want you to worry, Sarada panted, resting her hands on her knees, but it seems my time is almost up. Hold on, I'll get the antidote from Chio-sama. And no, Sarada told her sternly and punched a puppet who was sneaking behind her in the face. I'll be fine, let's just finish this. Alright. Sakura bit her lip but nodded. Alright, but I will force you to take it if I see you're getting worse. Sarada laughed, and although her face were a mess of cuts and smeared blood, so look radiant. Okay mom. Sakura froze, staring at Sarada as her heart began to beat faster and faster. What did she just say? Sarada said something to her, looking panicked, but it fell on deaf ears as Sakura's heartbeat was too loud, hammering in her ears. She tried to snap out of it, but it felt like she was being tied to a rock, drowning in a dark ocean. No. Sakura tried to shake her head, closing her eyes. I'm fine, focus. She snapped her eyes open, just in time to catch what Sarada was saying. Behind you. Turning around, Sakura roundhouse kicked the living crap out of 3 puppets coming from behind her in one swoop, regaining her senses. Are you okay? Sarada looked at her with worry in her eyes. Sakura nodded. I'm fine, she said. It must have been the poison making me numb for a moment. Sarada gritted her teeth. Well, I don't want you to die, so make sure you keep your guard up. She turned to fight the next round of puppets coming their way. Sakura stared at her back for a moment, feeling like there was something missing on that red fabric. She shook her head. Now's not the time, right? They punched and kicked and dodged, but it seemed like the puppets just kept coming. There's too many of them, she thought as she destroyed yet another puppet. I've got to find a way to take them all out in one shot. Lost in her thoughts, she barely dodged the several sharp weapons thrown at her. Jumping back, she waited until they all form an unorganized line and drew her fist back. Okay, she punched the first puppet, making it fly into the puppet behind it, and it fly into the puppet behind it until all 10 of them were destroyed in one swoop. Not too far from her, Sarada grabbed a boulder and threw it on the incoming puppets. Sakura noticed that throwing boulders at people seemed to be a favorite method of the girl. There's too many of them, Sarada shouted to her above the sounds of the battle between Sasori and Chio. My thoughts exactly, got a plan. Sarada shattered another puppet because it's getting annoying. Sakura smiled despite herself. Annoying, huh? I'm working on something. Sarada kicked a puppet in the face. Work faster than I'm punched. Trying my kick. Roundhouse best fist to the stomach. Suddenly a blurry attack from her side got her blindsided, but before she could even begin to block it, one of Chio's puppets blocked it for her, using a barrage of attacks on the attacking puppet and sending it flying into a boulder. You alright, Sakura? Chio asked her. I'm okay. Then stay sharp, Chio commended. Sarada glanced at Sasori and then gasped, Chio-sama, she yelled just as Chio was cut down by her grandson's puppet. Oh no, Chio gasped as she pulled one of her puppets to crush the puppet that injured her before it could inflict any more damage on her. Are you alright over there, Chio-sama? Sakura asked her in worry, seeing how the elder woman was barely standing and clutching her shoulder tightly. Don't you worry about me, Sakura, Chio assured her. Right now you just focus on Sasori, I'll keep the other puppets in check, right? Sakura turned back, but her mind was a storm. Both Chiyo and Sarada were injured, and they only had one antidote left. What should they do? Thinking logically, she knew the shinobi law would say she should save the more valuable teammate, but what kind of cold-hearted stuff is that, and who would be more valuable in this situation? Sakura, Sarada shouted, we're reaching our limits. She's right, Sakura thought, we need to end this. The onslaught of puppets prepared to attack once again. But this time Sakura charged first. Her goal, Sasori himself. A cluster of puppets assembled in her path, but two of Chiyo's puppets joined her side, one wielding a sword and the other a chain that cleared the first few puppets out of her, helping her prepare to dodge those that came after that. Sakura here, Chiyo threw something in her direction. Use this. Sakura turned to catch it when she heard the clicking sound. Sasori's puppets made a moment before they attacked, turning her head just enough to see almost 10 swords about to pierce her before clank. Sarada appeared in front of her with a kunai. Her back turned to Sakura as she blocked the barrage of sharp object with her knife. Are you okay? I'm fine, Sakura catched the object. Chiyo tossed her and jumped up above the 10 puppets surrounding Sarada. Thanks. Out of the corner of her eye she could have sworn she saw a glint of red in Sarada's eyes as the girl stared at Sakura, but then Sarada went back to glaring at her wooden opponents, and Sakura turned her gaze back to Sasori, forgetting all about it. Get off me, Sarada shouted, the sounds of wood being smashed to pieces reaching Sakura's ears as she ran and making her smile slightly. It seemed Sarada had a similar temper to Sakura. She jumped above a discarded puppet body, evaded another, and punched a third. How many did that make so far? A row of them fell down on her from above like hawks diving on prey, and she had to suck in her stomach twice so to not get sliced by them 3 times as she evaded. Finally Sasori was in sight. Sakura focused all of her rage and frustration on her fist as she drew back her arm and then threw it forward, sending the object in her hand flying towards him. Take this. The small ball-shaped object flew past a dozen puppets, morphing into a new shape and growing in size until it became a kitten-shaped wooden head. The kitten opened its jaw filled with surprisingly sharp teeth and bared them at Sasori, who seemed panicked. Sakura staggered, almost falling on her face from the enormous use of her force. The kitten roared, heading straight towards Sasori at a speed he could not stop, and then the power of the impact shook the crater. Sakura stood panting as the corpses of all 100 puppets lay scattered around her. Sarada drew her fist back from the hollow stomach of the last puppet standing and joined Sakura in staring at the body of Sasori, now lifeless, pinned to the wall by the kitten puppet's jaw. Sakura almost collapsed with relief, her shoulders sagging with exhaustion. We did it, Chiyo sighed. He can't move. That ceiling has siphoned every ounce of chakra he had in his body. Using his chakra threads is impossible now. It's over, Sasori, she told the unmoving puppet man like an adult scolding a child before she collapsed to her knees, her body finally giving into the pain. Chiyo-sama. Sakura ran to her side. Quick, where's the antidote? She froze when she heard a thud next to them, realizing that Sarada's body has also gave out on her. Oh no, Sakura stared. Who'll get the antidote? Forget me, child, Chiyo said weakly. Give the antidote. She winced in pain. Give the antidote to Sarada. But it's not like she didn't want to give Sarada the antidote, but if she did, Chiyo will know. Sarada choked out between labored breathing. Her lips and teeth were stained red and blood ran down her face from her eyes. Her eyes were bleeding. I can take some pain until we reach Suna. Chiyo-sama, won't you have to HNGH give it to her? Don't be preposterous, child, Chiyo scolded the bespectacled girl. You're young with a promising career ahead of you. You need to. However, what Chiyo meant to say was cut off by the sound of hollow wood behind her and Sakura. Sarada's eyes widened as she looked behind them, her mouth gaping. Sakura turned around like in slow motion, hearing the sound of a sword being pulled out of its sheath. Her eyes darted to Sasori's sealed body and made quick note of how the tube with the red scorpion written on it that was stuck in his chest was no longer there. In the exact moment Sakura noticed that her brain informed her of one more thing. The sword was headed for Chiyo, and she can block it. Without even thinking, she threw her body in the way of the blade, closing her eyes and preparing for the pain of the sharp metal penetrating her abdomen. She didn't feel the blade, only hearing the sound of clothes tearing and of flesh cutting open, and feeling the splatter of blood hitting her face, and then she heard the cry of pain escaping from her lips, only she didn't move her mouth, opening her eyes. All she could do was stare at the scene before her. Chiyo behind her, shocked and vulnerable, Sasori in front of her seeming confused as to what has happened, and Sarada face scrunched up in pain and her closed eyes letting waterfalls of blood flow down her cheeks like tears, gripping the blade that had pierced her abdomen, the blade she took for Sakura in Sakura's place. So why was Sarada smiling? Time skip. Everything hurt. Sarada's whole body felt like it was on fire, but at that point she couldn't even tell whether it was from the poison, the bruises loitering every centimeter of her skin, the wounds and cuts on her limbs, or that damned sword Sasori shoved into her stomach. That last one probably hurt the most, though the blade ran her through the abdomen and existed from her back, dripping her blood to the ground. She panted, her head fuzzy From pain her eyes were burning, the overuse of the Sharingan taking its toll on her whether she liked it or not, and by the warm liquid on her cheeks she was either crying or bleeding from her eyes, deciding that whatever option it is shouldn't keep her from lowering her guard. She pried open her eyes slightly to check what was going on, since her ears were filled with a mask of static noise immediately. Regretting her decision, her eyes were burning even harder now, most likely resenting her for even thinking about using them. She fought to open them, finding the scene in front of her almost morbid. In front of her stood Sasori, glaring at her with a frozen, surprised face like he planned to be glaring at something and then got blindsided by something else. Also an accurate description of Sarada's latest addition to her growing list of things I should really think about before I act behind her were Chio and Sakura. Chio, aside from the obvious poisoning and wounds, seemed fine, but it was Sakura's condition Sarada really sought. But what she saw was worse than 1,000 swords to the stomach. A terrified expression latched to Sakura's face, her pupils dilated and her hands were shaking. To any outsider it would look like she was shocked from Sarada's sacrifice, but as her future daughter Sarada knew better. She looked deep into Sakura's jaded eyes and found what she was looking for: scared and hurt. That's what Sakura felt, scared for her own life, Chio's life, and Sarada, but also hurt because in Sakura's eyes, the person who Sarada knew from stories always felt that she needed to catch up to others and stop being saved. It seemed like Sarada just stepped in and saved her, believing she is too weak to be able to save another, and the fact Sakura really believed that was what Sarada was doing hurt Sarada more than any sword could ever try. So she smiled at Sakura and tried to show her she did it for her own selfish reasons, not because she believed Sakura was weak. She wanted to tell Sakura then and there that after witnessing her die once, even seeing her get hurt pains her. So when she saw the blade that was coming to cut her down, Sarada jumped in and took her place, because seeing Sakura die again will kill Sarada. The double pun was not intended. Sakura spoke up, her voice but a whisper. She winced, then clutching her side where Sasori had cut her. Sarada tried to ignore the bubble of blood forming at the corner of her mouth. How are you holding up? Can you still move? Oh, Sasori tilted his head to the side like a curious pigeon, still worried about them. Even with a sword to your gut, he pushed the blade even further inside, making Sarada cry out in cold sweat as she felt the cold metal move through her body. Her legs shook, begging her to allow them to collapse underneath her, but she stood strong. I'm definitely running a fever, she made a mental note to herself. To have Sakura look over her later. The poison is eating away at me, but I guess my cells are giving it a bit of fight. If you're a medical ninja, then you should understand exactly how dire the situation is, Sasori commented, his cold eyes so detached from any emotion it was like looking into a black hole. But Sarada Uchiha caved to no opponent. She forced her eyes to meet his and gave him the best papa glare she could muster. Tch, she clicked her tongue at him. You're annoying. Unfortunately, that only made him chuckle. You're quite a courageous girl, he noted with interest, but how much longer can you really hold on? He slid the blade even further in and she bit her lip until she drew blood in order not to make a sound more than necessary. Ignore the pain, she told herself. This is nothing. Focus on healing. Use every ounce of chakra left in you to heal. It seemed to be working. Channeling all of her chakra towards that major wound was no easy task, but she was able to pull it off. Sakura, you need to listen to me, she told Sakura between labored breaths. I want you to take the antidote and give it to Chiyo-sama. She needs it more than me, but don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Sarada tried to assure her, but it felt like a million tiny Sarada were running around in her mind screaming that she won't be PSH. What do they know? Just give Chiyo-sama the antidote. Sakura looked like she wanted to argue, but Sarada cut her off by coughing up blood, feeling it stream down her chin. It appears the poison is starting to take effect. Sasori chuckled again, and if Sarada didn't have a sword so close to her spine, she'd probably have shuddered. You see, my sword was also coated with poison, just in case. What's with this guy and poison? Sarada thought to herself in anger. It's like his only move. Be more creative. Her fingers twitched and she felt like a million small needles were pricking at her skin all over her arm. My body's going numb with the poison. The healing aura around her stab wound flickered for a moment before steadying again. I'm losing control of my chakra. Hurry, give Chiyo-sama the Sarada's sentence was cut short by the feeling of a needle stabbing her calf. At first she thought it was just her leg becoming numb as well, but when she looked down it wasn't from the numbness, it was Chiyo injecting the antidote into her. What are you doing? Sarada stared in shock as the last of the antidote made its way into her circulation and disappeared from the tube. Why didn't you take it? Chiyo collapsed next to her legs, having used all of her energy to deliver the cure for the poison. Chiyo-sama. Sakura leaned next to the elderly woman. Are you okay? Sarada's hands were trembling. Why were the adults around her so quick to give up their own lives for her? Was she cursed? Why must Chiyo suffer because of Sarada's incompetence? No, a voice in her head said, a voice sounding suspiciously like her late father. We do it because you're the future, the one who will fix our past mistakes, and truly Bring peace, that's quite the task you're dropping on a 16-year-old, she wanted to say back, but she understood she herself would put her life on the line again and again if Boruto or Himawari were in danger. She can't blame others for wanting to save her when she would do the same for them. That's why I can't die here. Determination streamed throughout her body, making her feel lighter. I can't let all of the sacrifices they made be in vain. She could already feel the antidote working, so while it was still lodged in her gut, she reached out and placed one hand over the blade and then another, wrapping her hands around it. She could tell Sasori was shaken by her sudden move and tried to use it for her advantage. It became a vicious tug-of-war, with Sasori struggling to keep the blade in her while she did her best to pry it out. It hurt like hell, but she tried to endure it. It took a lot of concentration to pull out of you a sharp weapon without hitting any major blood vessels or internal organs. She gritted her teeth. I won't give up, she told Sasori. Told Sakura. Told herself Chiyo's condition was clearly getting worse and Sakura was fretting over her. Come on, hang in there. Suddenly Sasori's upper arm disconnected from the forearm, pulling away to reveal another blade attached to his stump. She tensed, but he jumped away before she could do anything about it. He ran towards her again, or maybe it was towards Chiyo and Sakura. Either way, she instinctively activated her Sharingan despite the pain and the burning sensation. Catching the look of shock Sasori's eyes had in them once he saw her do that, understanding overtook his features, and he aimed his blade at her, ready to strike, only for Sarada's ears to pick up on the hollow sounds of two wooden puppets flying in their direction. Slash, splatter. Purple blood splattered over the rock they were on as Sasori stood still a few meters from them, his heart pierced by two of Chiyo's puppets. Mother and father, what Sasori's disbelieving tone was labored. No, he turned to look at the faces of the puppets who enveloped him. Sarada's Sharingan told her that they were now standing inside a seal before it deactivated, making her eyes burn even more. In the process, you lowered your guard at the last moment, Sasori. Each breath Chiyo took sounded like someone was shaking a paper bag full of coins. What? Sasori's eyes wandered around them before he coughed some blood up. And now you can't move anymore. Chiyo's voice was shaking, but Sarada couldn't tell whether it was because of her injuries or because of what she had just done to her only grandson. Even though your body is now that of a puppet, you still need a human element to control chakra. That's your weakness. Sarada's eyes wandered over the place where mother and father's weapons penetrated Sasori's chest. I couldn't help but notice that this is the same part from the last puppet's chest. You must have done it quickly just before the jutsu was completed. A simple switch to a different puppet. It was at this point Sarada noticed she still had a blade inside her gut and began to try and pull it out gently. All of these puppet bodies, they're just a collection of dolls, but your true nature, that is that part in your chest that produces chakra. And Sarada would have loved to hear the rest, but in her half-conscious endeavors to pull a sharp object from her body, it seemed to have only made it worse, making her collapse to the ground. Sakura turned her to her side and inspected the wound. This doesn't look good. She held Sarada's hand. Sarada, can you handle me pulling out the sword? She asked her. Sarada gritted her teeth and tried to fight her body's urge to shiver so that it wouldn't move the sword too much. That would be really appreciated. Sakura nodded and got to work, slowly pulling out the sword whilst healing the wound. Sarada winced, biting her lower lip so hard she tasted iron in her mouth. Her forehead was covered in sweat and grim. Stay with me. Sakura tried to comfort her. Sarada was in so much pain she couldn't even think of a comment to that. She just clenched her fist tightly and shook, trying to prevent any noises from escaping her mouth. She's a goddamn Uchiha and she can get through this. Finished, Sakura declared as she threw away the sword and focused both hands on healing the rest of Sarada's wound. You were great, Sarada. Sarada slumped in relief with the sword gone and the antidote working. She was already feeling better. Sasori chuckled. That just won't work even without the sword and the poison. She lost too much blood. It won't be possible to save her. You wanna bet? Sarada glared defiantly at him and then closed her eyes. Okay mama, if there was one thing you gave me was the ability to heal faster, so I could really use that right now. Focusing, she took a deep breath in and out. Even though it hurt so much, she suspected she at least cracked a rib or two. Gently she took all of her chakra and distributed it around her cells using medical ninjutsu to speed up the process. Hey, it's working, Sakura exclaimed in relief. It's almost like your cells are helping me. Not almost, exactly like it. Sarada thought this ability was great, but when it was forced, Sarada knew there was a big price to pay. Life is not a game we can toy with. Sarada mama used to tell her daughter, we're not gods, and each time we save a life there's a cost. What about the times we save our own lives? Sarada asked. Her mama's face turned grim. Sarada, there's a reason me and Tsunade-sama don't use our Byakugo often, she said, and tapped her forehead where the purple diamond Sarada has known since birth was adorned. It shortens our lifespan. It is only to be used in emergencies. It has a similar effect to regenerating cells by force. It'll make you weaker and more disoriented for a few weeks at best. At worst, it can cost you years. Sarada nodded and made sure to write down to only forcefully Regenerate when there's an emergency. Now this was not any kind of emergency, so Sarada only gave a slight nudge to her cells to start naturally work with Sakura, not forcing them to regenerate all the way. She'll probably deal with exhaustion for a while, but it was alright, she could take it, but she will never ever use the forceful regeneration technique. Without a damn good reason, feeling stronger now, she pushed herself up on 4 using her arms, trying not to shake from the weight she put on them. Sakura's light touch on her shoulder and worry in her eyes basically told Sarada exactly how bad she looks. Are you alright? I'm okay. She gave them a tired smile. How are you? Two were hanging in there, Sakura told her, both her and Chio looking relieved to see she was alive. Great, Sarada nodded. Now Sakura, yeah, about the other thing. Sarada looked Sakura in the eye, trying to communicate her thoughts through their eye contact. Wanna take the first try? Sakura's face turned serious and she nodded. With pleasure. The sound of a fist cracking wood was heard when Sakura suddenly turned to Sasori and punched in the face hard enough to crack his cheek. That's pointless. Sasori almost sounded bored. This puppet body of mine can't feel any pain. The only thing you'll hurt is your own fist. Sarada felt the anger and pent-up frustration radiating in waves from Sakura and hoped that Sasori would keep talking just so her young mother would punch him again. But come to think of it, you all seem to love doing such pointless things. He chuckled. Even if a relative, my own grandmother, died right here, I wouldn't feel a thing. My heart is just like this body, hollow. Sarada was tempted to ask, over the years I've killed hundreds, thousands of people. She'd be no different from the rest. Things are much simpler than you might think. What do you think human life is? It was Sarada who asked him that, and it was Sarada who was glaring at Sasori now like she wanted to rip his head off his body, which she really wanted to do. What is family to you? She shouted at him. Pictures of her parents at dinner or her friends hanging out of the village bustling with life flashed through her mind. Hey, is that really how a shinobi should talk? Sasori asked her, not as fazed by her outburst as Chio and Sakura were. Sarada kept glaring at him, but she no longer spoke. How dare you? Sakura jumped, and how can you treat people this way? Girls, Chio's tired voice shook them out of their rage. That's enough. But either teachings and costumes of Sunagakure did this. Chio looked so lonely and broken at that moment. We all share the blame on how he is today. But Chio-sama, Sakura tried to talk to her deep down inside. Don't you want to be like me? Sasori's question made Sarada freeze. If you do, then I'm sure you'll understand just a little of what I'm talking about. Be a puppet, not feel pain, emotion. Sarada scoffed. Don't make me laugh. She glared at him even harder, focusing all the burning sensation she was feeling in her eyes into a fuel for her rage. Getting hurt and feeling emotions is what being human is all about, what being alive is all about. If you take that away, then you're really nothing but an empty dead shell. Then I am neither dead nor am I alive, Sasori said with a smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. The end is near, but first I'm going to do something pointless to think of it as a reward for defeating me. You wanted to know about Orochimaru, didn't you? Sarada froze while Sakura gasped. Orochimaru and Sasuke, could she really meet him? Her father from the past, but he was a different person back then, wasn't he? Go to the Tenchi Bridge in Kusagakure 10 days from now at noon. Sasori wasn't looking at Sakura, he was looking directly at Sarada and smirking. Was it because he saw her Sharingan? Why? Sakura asked him. What's there? One of Orochimaru's henchmen is working for me as a spy, and that's where I'm supposed to rendezvous with him. However, I don't think he quieted down all of a sudden, and the hollow sounds his body made went away. Sarada stared at the body of the puppet master Sasori while both the mother and father puppets fell down to the ground. A metal clink was heard from next to Sasori as his scratched forehead protector fell from his grasp to the rock. Sakura turned gently to Chio. Well, Chio-sama, it's finally over, you did it. But Chio didn't answer, staring at the 3 puppets who were once her family with eyes that were not there. No, dear, she spoke at last. The wrong person was defeated in battle today. It should have been me instead, Sakura gasped softly, and Sarada looked down, knowing how Chio was feeling better than she let on, just like he had done before. Sasori anticipated my final attack, but for some reason he didn't even attempt to dodge it. He chose to let his defenses down. You mean that he? Sakura looked at Sasori. Wanted this? Chio stayed quiet, thinking so. Sarada answered, nobody really wants to die unless the heart beating in their chest is doing only that. It was something she had learned the hard way, and so did Sasori. It seems. Naruto turned to Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, ready yet? Kakashi looked up. My preparation is complete. He moved his fingers from his Sharingan, revealing that odd pattern Naruto only ever saw in Itachi's eyes, and even then it was slightly different than Kakashi. So that's what you were telling me about? He asked. Kakashi nodded. That's right, my new Sharingan. He turned to Boruto, who seemed unfazed by Kakashi's sudden change of Sharingan pattern. Are you ready, Boruto? I'm at 90% capacity, he told them. By the time we catch up to him, I'll be ready. Alright, Kakashi nodded and turned ahead. Let's go, Naruto. Right. Sakura walked slowly, trying not to reopen her wounds as she made her way through the broken terrain around them. Chio and Sarada walked behind her, both of them limping slightly from their different injuries. A thumping sound from behind her made her turn and see Chiyo on her knees, her body giving up. Sarada was already checking on the woman by the time Sakura reached them. Frowning, Chiyo-sama, the bespectacled girl, inspected the wound on the elder woman's back. It got infected. Sakura removed her gloves and gently placed her hands above the cut. Here, let me heal you. As she worked, Sakura noticed that Sarada was trying to wipe off some of the blood on her face and felt compelled to ask Sarada, "Did your eyes bleed?" Sarada froze mid-movement, the back of her hand against her cheek as she tried to clean the trails of still fresh blood left there. She bit her lip a bit. Sakura frowned. "How did it even happen?" "I don't know." Sarada shook her head, pushing her glasses up the bridge of her nose. "I guess I strained them too much." Sakura wasn't satisfied with that answer when she noticed the wound under her care closed, effectively stopping the bleeding. "But this is only temporary," she thought to herself. "It won't save her. I still have to do something about the poison that got into her system." Chiyo's breaths were labored and slowly, her whole body radiating fatigue. Sakura's gaze was drawn to the empty antidote capsule Chiyo injected Sarada with, laying disposed and empty on a rock. "All of the antidote I made in Suna is gone, and I can't make more since I used up all of their herbs. Maybe if I can arrange the herbs to be transported to Suna quickly enough." Sarada looked at her knowingly, and somehow Sakura knew the girl was thinking something along the same lines. "It won't work, I know, but still." Sakura looked at Chiyo, who was suffering from the pain of the wounds and poison. "Maybe is not good enough." Sarada shook her head. "I'm not saying we need to give up just to try and look at it realistically." Sakura also shook her head, but this time it was with defiance. "No, I know I can do it." Crouching next to Chiyo, she spoke, "Hurry you, and I need to get you to Suna." And then no Chiyo's response came. Sakura drew back, confused. "Why not, Chiyo-sama? We have to get back and neutralize the poison quickly. Our job here is finished. We beat him, but more than that, there's something I must do." Chiyo shook her head. "My job isn't done yet." Sakura wanted to argue, but it seemed like Sarada understood what she meant. The girl's eyes turned sad as she looked at the woman, and her expression was of a person who came to terms with an uneasy fate, of a person who had lost so much. They accepted that nothing was for them to have. Naruto stared at Kakashi anew. "Sharingan ha." Kakashi noticed his gaze. "What is it?" Naruto turned his head back on the target. "Kakashi-sensei, don't sweat it. If this doesn't work," he told his teacher, "cause if it doesn't, I'll make sure to settle things once and for all. Don't think I'm just going to let you go after him yourself." Boruto told Naruto, jumping next to him. "If this doesn't work out, I'm coming with you to beat the crap out of that guy." He hit his open palm with his fist. "He's been pissing me off ever since we met him." Naruto nodded, grateful for the support. "Yeah, I'm sure you will if it comes to that." Kakashi noted. Sarada ran after Sakura and Chiyo, her leg injuries slowing her down. To her dismay, her vision was blurry even with her glasses on thanks to the overuse of her Sharingan. When she gets home, she suspects that Boruto will force her to wear that stupid cloth to prevent eye strain. Exhaustion plagued her entire body, making her limbs feel as heavy as lead. In front of her, Chiyo stumbled from the tree trunk she tried to jump onto and would have fallen down if Sakura didn't grab her hand at the last minute and pulled her up. Sarada bit her lip and looked away, knowing what she was doing was stupid. It felt like she was watching a person walking to their deaths, and it was pretty much the case with Chiyo. Sarada studied the history of all famous Kages around the elemental nations ever since she was in the academy. One of the most well-known stories of the Kazekage is the one where Chiyo sacrificed her life for him. At the time, Sarada thought it was a noble act and viewed Chiyo as a hero amongst heroes, but now she just wanted the woman to live. She was tired of seeing people dying around her, tired of being reminded she's not strong enough to protect them. She glanced at Sakura from the corner of her eye, and then back at the sky where she was staring at. Why must her young mother be so careless? Sakura cared so much about the people around her, she sometimes forgot to take care of herself, and it was that trait of her Sarada both adored and loathed, because it was what made her mother so amazing, but what eventually brought Sarada misery. Chiyo pushed herself up shakingly, Sakura helping her lean against her body for support. "I'm sorry." Chiyo looked down in shame. Sakura shook her head. "Here we go," she said, jumping to the next trunk. Sarada followed them, her eyes trained on the back of Sakura's uniform where a white circle insignia was proudly shown, the Haruno clan symbol. It felt wrong to see it there, so Sarada closed her eyes for a moment and tried to imagine it was the Uchiha crest instead, like the one her mother always had on her back ever since Sarada was born. "Yes." Sarada allowed herself to smile slightly. "This looks right." Himawari's eyes started to hurt a little, her body's way to tell her she's been using the Byakugan too much, but she didn't deactivate it, especially since Niji's team had just entered the outskirts of her vision. She noticed they were all bruised but none injured too severely, which was a relief. Focusing her attention on her brother, she saw he was almost done preparing his seal and frowned, knowing what using it means to him. "Hopefully it'll be worth it." "All right." Kakashi glanced at the boys. "You might want to fall back a little, right, sensei?" Naruto nodded, moving back. Boruto followed him, his only eye narrowing at Deidara. "Got it." Kakashi focused his sight at the man on the bird Mangekyo Sharingan. Immediately he felt a burn in his eye as the space around Deidara warped to his will. Beginning to suck in his body, Kakashi ignored the strain on his chakra as the jutsu fought to be suck in Deidara, a sweat drop rolling down his face. Now it was Naruto's turn. Naruto climbed up the rock face of the valley they were in, glancing up at where the space was warped around the clay bird. What kind of jutsu is this, he wondered. Incredible. Deidara tried to escape, but to no avail. Kakashi's ability keeping him in place. Naruto prepared for his part, but it seemed like Kakashi was having trouble. With Deidara's struggling, the warping seemed to have focused on one spot. Deidara's other arm, the one that was still in his sleeve, and tried to suck it in with a sickening noise. The warp cut off part of the Akatsuki member's arm, sucking in the rest and making Deidara cry out in pain. The warped space disappeared, leaving the blonde man crouching down on his bird. Boruto stared at the future 6th Hokage, impressed. I'm still not very good at controlling this size or the position of the barrier space, Kakashi said in frustration as he covered his eye before he moved it, but I'll get it right this time. Boruto's hand tingled, informing him that it was ready. Since he hadn't used that technique for several weeks, it took a while to activate it, but now he was locked and loaded, ready to blow up some blonde bastard from the sky. The space around Deidara warped again, indicating Kakashi was back in action, but Boruto knew how straining using the Mangekyo Sharingan is. For years he watched his master almost collapse after using Amaterasu, and as a non-Uchiha, Kakashi had less of a compatibility with the Sharingan, meaning they won't get much more chances to catch Deidara. The Akatsuki member was being sucked in, but it was clear that this warp was less strong than the one before. Kakashi making struggling noises as he strived to close it. He managed to deflect Deidara's course from a straight line and into the woods. Boruto and the Jonin following after the bird. Boruto's seal begged him to use it, and his fingers twitched. Soon the moment he'll have a clear shot at him. Deidara almost disappeared completely within the warped space before flying out again like a boat, pointlessly trying to escape a whirlpool only to be sucked in once again. Boruto jumped down from the trees to the ground, hitting it while running after Kakashi, who was a few steps ahead of him. The Jonin kept trying to suck in Deidara's head, making the Akatsuki member dive lower, closer to the ground. Boruto gritted his teeth. Just a little lower there. Kakashi-sensei moved, Boruto yelled, aiming his karma at the white bird. The sensei barely got a minute to jump out of the way before Boruto unloaded all of his frustration and anger from the past month into his palm, all of the sadness from his losses and the hatred of himself he carried in his chest, and then he released at the same time. Two Naruto appeared in the sky, Rasengan between them, ready to strike at Deidara from above. Deidara jumped away and fell through the woods, the sound of his crash echoing through the near woods as he barely avoided Naruto's attack, only that Naruto wasn't aiming for him in the first place. The chakra that Boruto had stored inside his seal broke free from his palm, amplified from the time he had absorbed it, and soaring through the air, hitting the bird in the stomach just as Naruto jumped forward. Rasengan, Naruto shouted as he severed the bird's head from its clay body. At the exact moment Boruto's attack obliterated the remaining parts, leaving Boruto's arm with smoke frills coming out of it. As he panted, he may be able to activate and use his karma, but it didn't mean that it didn't hurt when he did so. Collapsing on his knees, he clutched his burning arm and watched as two more of Naruto's clones popped into existence and grabbed the bird's head. As it fell down, nice one, old man. Boruto smirked, breathing heavily, pulling himself up to his feet. He walked towards the place they landed with his hand on his arm, slightly limping. He might have overestimated his ability to use the amplification technique. With going through a couple of weeks without practice, he reached the tree where Naruto's clones placed the bird's head on a low branch. Just as the real Naruto landed on the branch himself, Gaara Naruto hurried to try and dig into the clay bird's mouth. Another clone landed behind him next to Kakashi, who was panting heavily as well after the long use of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Kakashi-sensei, are you alright? Kakashi's exhaustion was eminent in his voice as he answered, yeah, I think so. What about you, Boruto? The clone asked him. Boruto blinked in surprise and turned to them, rubbing his sensitive arm. I'm good, this is nothing. The sounds of crumbling clay was heard from where the clones and real Naruto were digging into the bird in their attempt to rescue Gaara. Don't worry, Gaara will get you out. The original Naruto talked to the bird just as he made the final crack and punched a hole through the clay. Hey, Gaara. Boruto knew what was going to happen because he heard of it in a history lesson once, and yet he couldn't take his eyes off the scene. Sakura jumped on the next tree trunk with Chiyo Sarada following her. She was worried about the others, Chiyo and herself. How are they all doing? They haven't heard from Teen Guy in a while, and when they went out of the crater, Himawari was no longer there. Sarada suggested she might have taken off with Kakashi and the others, but Sakura wasn't sure given how severe the girl's injuries were. Trying to find something to distract herself from those morbid thoughts, she turned to the girl next to her, Sarada. The girl in question turned to her. Have you ever heard of the Tenchi Bridge? Sarada's shoulders tensed. I'm not sure. She pushed her glasses up her face to keep them from slipping down her nose. My parents might have mentioned it once or twice. Is this about what Sasori told Yes, it is. Sakura bit her lip and thought someone very dear to me has gone missing a while back, and I think the bridge is the best way to find him. Sarada nodded, smiling at her. They must be really precious to you, huh? Sakura nodded, thinking of him. Yes, he is. Then I hope you'll find him soon, Sarada said, her smile turning a bit sad as she looked ahead. Me too, Sakura said sadly. Me too, Sarada pointed ahead. They've definitely been through here. Her finger was pointing at a broken tree trunk in an otherwise undisturbed area. They were probably following the one who had taken Gaara away. Sakura remembered how hurt Naruto looked when he saw Gaara's body, how his voice turned even more gruff than usual, sounding like what an animal would sound like if they could talk. His growls were definitely inhuman. We must hurry. Chiyo's voice cut through Sakura's thoughts. Right, she nodded at the woman, but please, you must tell me if you're feeling unwell at any time. All right, Chiyo hardened her expression. I will. Let's keep going then, Sarada told them both. I have a bad feeling about this. Kakashi, are you there? Coming. Kakashi. Niji listened to Guy trying to rendezvous with Kakashi through the radio line they'd set up with no avail. Guy sighed. Guess the radio's out of range. He turned to Niji. Niji, can you see what's going on with Kakashi and the others? Niji activated his Byakugan and looked, seeing that everyone were heading towards the same place. Yes, I see them, he informed his sensei. There still engaged with the enemy. It appears they've recovered the Kazekage. However, Guy promoted. Niji didn't answer as he was distracted by a person who should not have appeared in his view at all. What was Himawari doing so close to the Akatsuki member? Boruto watched as the clones were finishing digging out Gaara from the clay. Knowing it was helpless, finally they broke the surface and brought Gaara's body out into the open. Talk to me, the original Naruto said. Hey, come on, Gaara. He shook the unresponsive Kazekage's shoulder. Boruto saw how Naruto's shoulders slumped, how he started trembling and wanted to do nothing more than grab him and pull his young dad into a hug, but he couldn't because Naruto wasn't his father yet. As much as it hurt Boruto to admit he and Naruto didn't have that kind of bond yet, so he couldn't comfort him. Gaara. Naruto cried out his friend's name in anguish. Boruto closed his eye and looked away, gritted his teeth. Loss was something Boruto was familiar with, especially losing friends. He wanted to reach out to Naruto, but his still sensitive arm won't budge. Like a sign from above. He shouldn't. You will pay for this, Naruto growled, his body standing completely still. The voice of the Akatsuki member came from a few trees away from them. Yeah, he laughed. Maybe someday I'll give you a rematch, kid. Boruto seriously wanted Kakashi to rip out that guy's arm again, or he could just do it himself. You've let down your guard, Kakashi told Deidara just as Naruto appeared behind him, his punch ready. Deidara barely managed to turn around before Naruto's fist collided with his face, sending him flying down from his tree branch. Boruto waited down at the bottom of the tree, jumping up high enough to kick Deidara's body right back to Naruto like an odd game of catch. Yes, the clone standing next to Kakashi raised his fist into the air. Dropped your guard, didn't you? Kakashi inquired, clearly entertained. The original Naruto ascended from above as Deidara's body flew towards him, making a hand seal shadow clone jutsu. 4 more Naruto clones appeared around the Akatsuki member, each grabbing a corner of the man and pinning him to the ground. As soon as they crashed into it, breaking the earth around them, the original Naruto dropped with his knee to Deidara's gut, his fist immediately going for Deidara's face. The power of the punch made the mini crater the clones created deeper dust and small rubble particles flying up from the force. Naruto continued to ruthlessly punched Deidara like he was in a trance, not noticing that the man's face were already bloody and bruised, or that his knuckles were covered in blood. Boruto watched in frozen shock, not recognizing the person in front of him. His father wasn't like that, angry and violent. It wasn't him, Dad. He swallowed hard. Naruto, but Naruto didn't hear him, too engulfed in his rage and sadness. To listen, the enraged blonde reached out his hand, having one of his clones help him make a Rasengan. Wait, Boruto yelled in panic. Was he going to kill that man? Stop! But it was too late. Naruto thrashing his Rasengan straight into Deidara's stomach and Deidara exploding into clay. A substitution, Kakashi exclaimed. All 4 of Naruto's clones disappeared in a poof of smoke, leaving the original Naruto crouched over the clay body. Boruto stared as Naruto's body shook, his fists clenched so tight the knuckles were turning white. He could feel the anger radiating from Naruto like waves of heat, and it scared him. He's never seen his father so out of control before. Naruto sat in the crater, his head down and looking at the clay body of the man who helped kill his friend. Boruto swallowed. Naruto, he took a hesitant step forward before he noticed something odd. An odd substance looking like a red bubble began to rise out of Naruto. First, it came out of his shoulders covering them, and then it came out of his lower back like he was growing a tail. Is that? Kakashi sounded worried, mirroring how Boruto was feeling. What was this ominous air?